Hello and welcome to Unacademy. I welcome you all to this episode 3 of Basics of Ancient India. I hope that you've watched the first and second episode where we had established what is the concept of time, the timeline, and further in the second episode we were able to establish how from prehistory till the Vedic period, then thereafter till Mahajanapada, how did things change, basics of it, how you need to know the locations and what is needed for the examination. Now, these sessions obviously are for students who have not touched the NCERT or are going to touch the NCERT because NCERT is talked about as a very important resource for the examination, though UPSC does not talk about it. But people tend to pick up the NCERT. And therein where lies the problem that NCERTs are not a complete resource. So if, for example, you talk about for any student who is preparing for 27, 28, if you pick up the NCERT, be it the 12th class part 1, 2 or 3, or you pick up the old NCERTs, there's a lot of presumption. There's a lot of context which is needed, and therefore these sessions are to give you context. We will transition from basics of ancient India to basics of medieval India because medieval India is an area as it is students don't understand or don't want to do. There's a very simple straightforward concept which you can understand the political evolution, what we will do today also, and you can understand everything very easily, very scoring in that regard. So for any student who is thinking of picking up the NCERT now, you should very simply now understand that the NCERT needs context. And if it needs context, you have to understand that context. And therefore, what we will do is, we'll understand the context from Maurya to Gupta, and thereafter we will also go further into understanding what is medieval, modern. We'll do this for all the areas of history. Now, before we begin, you should know about Unacademy Platinum. It's an online platform which gives you an offline experience. It is based out of Zoom, and wherein lies the concept of Platinum is the accountability, the idea that your cameras are on. We have 3 types of mentors. We have the concept of having a mentor 24/7, educator mentors, and a super coach who's a person who's actually cleared the examination. If you want to know anything about Unacademy Platinum, you can use the form which is given in the description box. Also, if you're a beginner who don't know where to start, what is the best course for me, what should I do, just fill up that form. It is a counseling form, it's a mentorship form. We will give you access to mentorship. We'll understand what you need, we'll make you understand what you want, and therefore you can use the link in the description box. And remember, 3 sessions of Unacademy Platinum are going to be free, open to all in the next week itself, and therefore please look out for the community post for that and join me in the Modern India class when we start the national movement. Now, in order to understand the basics of Mauryas to Guptas, see, students know who are the Mauryas, they understand all of these things, but they don't understand how India is changing during this period. So therefore, what I want to establish is the evolution of the political landscape and how the map keeps on changing. By understand that, you will have basics to look at any book, be it the Course for Indian History of McGraw-Hill written by me, or you can look at the NCERTs, whatever it is. So let's try to establish period by period how things are changing. So when we last had a discussion, we were talking about Mahajanapadas. And when we talk about Mahajanapadas, which is 600 or 500 BCE to 320, or rather we'll say 330 BCE, we had seen that we had Gandhara and Kamboj in this area. This was the whole area which the Mahajanapadas were basically holding on to, Asmaka and Saka. This was the area which they were in. Now, this in turn led to, as we know, the establishment of a very dominant power in this area, which is called as Magad. And once Magad will establish itself, it will start to expand. When it will start to expand, there will come a time that between 500 to 300 BCE, Magad will become a dominant power and establish itself in a very big chunk of the northern sector. This is going to be Magad. And the Magadhan Empire under Ajatashatru, under Bindusara, under Udayan, it is going to be extremely important. But for us, who matters is a person called Dhanananda. Dhanananda is going to be the one who will establish his power as the Nanda dynasty will come into context for Magadha. Now, in order to understand further, we have to expand our horizon and take into consideration what is happening between 330 to 324 to 321. This is the period of what is called as Alexander's invasion. So, Alexander is going to come from this sector. He will meet Ambhi. Ambhi will accept his overlordship. But Porus is going to give a lot of resistance and lot of, you can say, good fight against both of them for 3 months, which in turn will lead to Porus being added to the Alexander's empire, but then given the, you can say, governorship back as he was impressed. But here we had Dhanananda, and here we have Alexander who is waiting to cross the Beas river. What happens is, when it comes to crossing the Beas river, Dhanananda's army information gets leaked to, or they get to know how big Dhanananda's army is, realizing that it took 3 months to fight a person like Porus who had 1/3 or 1/4 of the army. Alexander's army is going to mutiny and he is going to go back, where he will die in Alexandria later. But when he will go back, there are two things which will happen together in the, you can say, northwestern sector in India. In India, what is going to happen is Dhanananda will be killed by Chandragupta Maurya, and Chandragupta Maurya is going to establish what is called as the Mauryan Empire. When the Mauryan Empire will get established, at the same point of time, you will have the person who was put as the governor of this area by Alexander. His name is Seleucus Nicator I. He will establish his own area, which is called as the Seleucid Empire. Seleucid Empire and Chandragupta Maurya will fight for this sector. This sector will then be later given as dowry under the marriage of Helena to Chandragupta Maurya. Now, this means that by 324 to 185 BCE, 321 according to different sources, this is the period of the Mauryas. Very important. This is the period of the Mauryas. This period is where you see that you will have one very big empire here, which will be expanding till even parts of South India under Ashoka, one of the most celebrated Mauryans. And here you will have the Seleucid Empire. You have the Seleucid Empire. So therefore, this is how the political landscape of the Indian subcontinent is going to look. And we will also have the 3 Sangam polities. They will emerge in this sector: Chera, Pandya, Chola. And this sector is called as Sangam polities. This is basically the political landscape of the Indian subcontinent. We have 2 major partners, one in the form of Mauryas, 2 in the form of the Sangam polities, and 3 which is in the northwestern sector, which is Seleucid Empire. Seleucid Empire had a very good relationship with the Mauryas. Mauryas, Ashoka highest point, Dhamma most important. We can do that discussion later, but you have to understand how everything is evolving. Till this point, things are not messy. What is messy is the period after this. So I hope that till this point you understand what I'm trying to say. Now, when we move to the next period, which is 184 to 100 BCE, then things are going to become interesting. How? See, Mauryan Empire is going to disintegrate, and it will disintegrate into first a small part of it, which is called the Shungas. This is where students mostly not understand the locations, and that is the problem. This will come up in 185, 184. These are called the Shungas. The Seleucid Empire, which was here, this will also break up, and a person called Diodotus I is going to establish power, and he will then establish power in a small entity here, which is called as the Indo-Greeks. They call the Indo-Greeks. They come into context in 165 BCE. In 165 BCE, they come into context. Now, in order to understand further what happens in this sector, we have to look at this area, which is the Tibetan Plateau. See, the Chinese are here. We know that under a ruler called Huan, they are going to start to expand towards the west. When they will do that, there will be two tribes here. One tribe is going to be here. They are called as the Yuchi. And one tribe is here, which is called as the Scythians. They're called the Scythians. Now, what is going to happen is, because of this movement, first Chinese moving towards this area, they will displace, the Yuchi tribe is going to displace the Scythians. Now, the Scythians will have no other option but to enter into the Indian subcontinent via a place called Parthenon. And when they enter the Indian subcontinent, they establish two major branches, and they are going to be called as the Sakas. This is 150 BCE. So the North Indian sector is going to get divided into three entities: Indo-Greeks, Shungas, Sakas. And this is because of the overall movement in Central Asia. And in the south, the Sangam polities are still there. They are still there. And there will be an entity which will rise here in 100 BCE. That is called the Satavahanas. So basically, between the period of 184 to 100 BCE, we have multiple entities: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This is what we established in the first class through the timeline also. These are all contemporary: Shungas, Indo-Greeks, Sakas, Satavahanas, Sangam polity, and the Yuchi tribe is now sitting somewhere here. It was here, now it is somewhere here, and they are going to come into context very soon. So this is a very interesting period in which there is an evolution of the landscape. There is an evolution of the landscape of how things are changing over a period of time. Now, when we move to the period from 100 BCE to 300 CE, now the transition has come through. If you remember that the Yuchi tribe was sitting somewhere here, this Yuchi tribe will be further pushed by Huan. The Yuchi tribe will be further pushed by Huan. Huan is moving towards this area. Yuchi tribe is sitting here. This Yuchi tribe will now enter into the Indian subcontinent. And this Yuchi, which you call Yuchi, is nothing but the Kushanas. And what they will do is, though there were the Indo-Greeks here and the Shungas here, the Kushanas will be able to consolidate this whole sector into one entity, and basically they will destroy the power of the Indo-Greeks and the Shungas. So what is left now is an entity called the Kushanas. So Kushanas were already there in this context. They were here. These are the Kushanas. The Kushanas pushed the Shakas into India. Now the Kushanas are sitting as a power here. The Sakas are able to still carve out a certain areas for them. This is in 30 CE. And the Satavahanas now hold North India. Satavahanas. By this point of time, rather Deccan India, by this point of time, the Sangam polities are now declining. Sangam polities are started to decline. So very simply, this is the political landscape of what is happening. You can see it is like an animation that from the idea of Maurya, Sangam polity, Seleucid Empire, it becomes Shunga, Indo-Greek, Saka, Satavahana, Sangam polity, and then it further becomes Kushana, Saka, Satavahanas, and Sangam polity. This is where most of the students find this area difficult because the basics are not clear. They don't understand what is happening. They just say, where are they coming from? And later what is going to happen is, in the period between 300 to 600 CE, the Kushanas will have a small power under them which will usurp a lot of power. They're called the Guptas. and the Guptas will then establish a very big empire in this sector, and the what we call as the political landscape of ancient India will be completed along with the Vakatakas and the Guptas. This is basically the transition. This is what you have to understand. From the Magad to Alexander's invasion, to Maurya, Seleucid Empire and the Sangam polities, to the Shunga, Indo-Greeks, Saka, Satavahana and Sangam polities, to the concept of Kushana, Saka, Satavahana and Sangam, and last but not the least, Gupta. Gupta, Vakataka, very big empire generally. This is what is called the political landscape of ancient India and how it has changed between Gupta to the period of, or rather from Maurya to Gupta. If you can understand this, then learning the terms, their political history, their basic facts and their sources is very easy. Half of the questions can be done by understanding these two slides only. This is where there is a very big transition from 5 polities to 1, 2, 3 and 4 entities. How things change and how are they changing is very, very important. If you can understand this, then you are now ready to read the NCERT. So, in the past 3 episodes, what we have established is the basics of ancient India. From understanding what is BC-AD to understanding the timeline itself, which I now hope is clear, to understanding what is called as the prehistory, Indus Valley civilization, the concept of Vedic, Mahajanapada, and today what we've understood is how did India evolve as a political entity from a certain space of just having 2 empires, or from the Mahajanapada space to then becoming more and more complex. This should give you enough context for you to now basically go into any book, any source. I hope that these sessions have been helpful. I hope that this series is making sense for all beginners who are watching this. And for anybody who wants to revive or understand or revise the overall landscape, you can watch this session also. Now, the next set of videos, if you want, can be basics of medieval India. You have to tell me in the comment section if this is working. Do you want the basics of medieval India? You have to write in the comment section, sir, we want basics of medieval India. I will discuss that in 3 episodes again. Efficient sessions, small sessions, but important sessions for the examination. So thank you. Take care. I will see you all in the platinum sessions, which will be open for everybody. And generally we'll be discussing modern India in that. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.